Smita. She is going to talk to us about the use, misuse, and future applications of LLMs in ophthalmic research and publications. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Dr. Reena, for this wonderful opportunity. By now, I'm fairly certain that there is not even a single person in this room who has not used a large language model like the Google Gemini or the Chat GPT to write a speech or to write a formal WhatsApp message. AI is that popular. And it is also useful very much in ophthalmology, as our previous speakers have pointed out. This Chat GPT and its many versions and the Gemini are useful for literature search, data analysis, writing an article, and also for peer review process. So for literature search, I use the Notebook LM. And this is how the home page looks like, and it has now become my virtual research assistant. So all I have to do is to go to the Discover Sources button and then type whatever is needed by me. And then after whatever I am interested in, I get a selection of the sources that are available with Gemini. Now till now, it is just like an ordinary Google search. What distinguishes it is that the notebook is able to provide summary of each of the articles that I have selected. So I don't have to read the whole article. This summary is so good that I can directly use it into my protocol. Besides, there is something called the chat option. You just type whatever is your doubt, say in your data analysis or in the scientific content, and that doubt will be cleared by the chatbot. Though personally speaking, I think the chatbot has a long way to go about the scientific content. Another very interesting feature, which was also pointed out by Dr. John, is the studio feature. Now you have got your summaries, now you want to know how to present it, or maybe you want to hear it once or twice or thrice so that you can understand it well. So it can present or give you an audio overview or a video overview. So it's very interesting to hear those summaries in the form of a podcast or in the form of an interview between two people so that you can understand the finer nuances of what you have selected. So this is how a mind map would look like, where the summary of each of the article you have selected, you will get certain points, and when you click on certain points, you will get further details of the points. Besides literature search, the large language models are also useful in research. You know that the heart of the research is the hypothesis. Now, human beings from time immemorial have created hypotheses in tens and thousands. But the large language models are able to create billions of hypotheses. But the only difference is that the hypotheses created by the human beings are imbued with intuition and creativity, while those with the large language models do lack imagination. These models are useful for data analysis. They can read the data, they can plan steps for data analysis, they can write a code, a Python code to perform the analysis, and then present the results in the chart form or in the pie or in your box and whisker or multiple forms that you like. However, what I want to point out is that this is just like a glorified version of your SPSS tool along with the chart option of your PowerPoint. I don't think it is a very evolved option. It has a long way to go. The most striking use of these large language models like ChatGPT is in providing assistance for writing a manuscript. Very helpful to write an introduction of your manuscript. So much so that Sikandar et al. Found that ChatGPT-4 and human researchers are equal in writing scientific introduction sections, and that too by a randomized control trial. You can write your first draft and then refine it with a large language model service like Paperpal or Grammarly. I shall share my experience with you. I once wrote a manuscript, which frankly speaking, I was very proud of. And then I submitted it to the manuscript submission site of a major journal. they asked that I should route it through Paperpal. And when I submitted it into Paperpal, I was sort of horrified to see that it made 32 suggestions to correct it. Anyway, I incorporated all of those suggestions and submitted it, and it requires multiple submissions, and submitted it. And then one of the final drafts actually resembled what I had submitted initially. So this actually, I believe that this is good for people who are not very proficient in English language. It is also useful to generate keywords and references and citations. The best use, I believe, is to write an abstract. I use the free version of ChatGPT. All I have to do is to write a prompt, write an abstract of 250 words with title and purpose and methods, results and conclusion. And then I upload whatever my scientific data or tables are. And then I say write 3 keywords and 5 references also. And within a minute, you get an abstract which is like which is very excellent abstract. The title is great, the purpose is well stated, the conclusion is so precise. And when you look at the keywords, they are so apt. And the references are in the Vancouver style which your journal requires. However, when I cross-check the references, I find that 3 of the references are fake. And this has happened to me with Perplexity also. I was supposed to create questions for some exam, and then I found that first 2 or 3 questions were having correct references. After that, all the references were fake. So that is hallucinations. By now you must be very familiar with the term. So these large language models, in their attempt to appear convincing, they have no hesitation in using small mistruths or oversimplifying complex topics. But creating an abstract based on a table submitted always raises ethical concerns. It need not be an ophthalmologist. It can be a non-medical person who can submit a fake table, and this artificial intelligence can generate an abstract which would be high class, and you can submit it to a conference. So that is raising some ethical concern. Besides creating fake tables or abstracts, it can also be used to generate fake papers. So much so that ChatGPT, especially its version 3, was used by Majovsky to prove this point. That they created a completely false paper using some prompts, and that required nearly only 1 hour by a person who was not even trained in the use of ChatGPT. This paper was so good that human peer reviewers were finding it very difficult to detect it, and that raises very important questions about integrity of scientific research and also the trustworthiness of the journals which are publishing such papers. So besides creating fraudulent papers, there is bias inherent in the large language models. Some of the bias is intrinsic bias. Intrinsic means it is the bias which is present in the training material that is present in the bias. These are some of the examples of extrinsic bias. That video is actually a news item which came in the NBC News in the US, which said that thousands of black people were kept away from getting renal transplants because of some bias in the algorithm, because of some flaw in the algorithm. So this happened in the UK with respect to liver transplants, and this can happen with respect to corneal transplants also. So this bias, which was racial, can also manifest as a gender bias in which the large language model associates certain genders with certain professions. Like it associates males as doctors and females as nurses. Rings a bell, isn't it? They are also useful for peer review process, where they help you in proofreading and generating review comments. But again, the whole thing about bias is always there, and it lacks deep domain knowledge. So that brings us to the very important question: should large language models like ChatGPT be listed as a co-author? And at present, the answer is a resounding no, because these language models are unable to give consent for authorship. They cannot be held accountable for the content. They have no novelty, originality, or creativity in the creation of the article. So the human authors should acknowledge the use of large language models, and the responsibility and accountability lies with them. So this is a template for giving out your disclosing your how you have used the large language model in your covering letter. And finally, I wish to conclude by saying that the large language models and artificial intelligence is here to stay. Learn to embrace it, but keep in mind about its misuse potential. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Dr. Smita. So that was a very interesting take on your experience with AI in research and publications. And now all of you know how to easily make abstracts and answers and all that, and how not to do it also.